Hi, my name is Paul Grogan, and in this gaming rules video, I'm going to be teaching you how to play That's a Question, designed by Vláďa Hvatel and published by Czech Games Edition. I'm sorry, a minute. Hello, Gaming Rules Hotline. Oh, hi, Vláďa. Yeah, I was just literally filming it when you called. Sorry? You want me to do what? Hi, my name's Paul Grogan, and in this gaming rules video, I'm going to be teaching you how to play That's a Question, designed by Vláďa Hvatel and published by Czech Games Edition. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a squirrel climbing a mountain? And whilst you're climbing, why not ask the other squirrels questions? Because that's what squirrels do. Why is this game about squirrels? That's a question. And if you're hoping to find the answer to that question within this video, you're going to be sadly disappointed. If, however, you want to learn the rules of the game and how to play, then carry on watching. Each player takes all the components in their chosen colour, an A and a B tile, 2 kicker tiles, and of course the squirrel. Place the game board on the table. Use the side according to the number of players in the game, which can be seen here. Each player then places their squirrel on the starting space. Shuffle the deck of answer cards and deal 5 to each player. Then count off a number of answer cards according to the number of players in the game and place them here. The rest of the answer cards will not be needed and can be returned to the box. Choose a starting player at random and give all of the other players 1 acorn. That's right, the starting player does not get an acorn.
Here, in the forest, the natural environment of the common squirrel, we answer the age-old question of whether squirrels eat acorns or hazelnuts. I've been researching this for many years, and I can tell you now that real squirrels eat donuts.
This game is for 3 to 6 players, but the rules for 3 and 4 players are slightly different, including setup. So for this video, I'm only going to cover the rules for a 5 and 6 player game. If you're playing with 3 or 4 players, please refer to the rulebook for the changes. The starting player takes the question board and must choose one of the other players to ask a question of. You can only ask a question of someone who has an acorn, and when you ask them a question, you take their acorn. You must also choose which one of the 3 possible questions to ask them, and out of the answer cards in your hand, you choose 2 of them which are the possible answers. You could ask, which of these would you choose? And you could, for example, select these 2 answers. Or you could ask, which of these would you miss more if it ceased to exist? And select these 2 possible answers. Or you could ask, whom do you consider worse? With these 2 answers. You will have noticed that the answer cards have 3 different parts to them, and the colour of the background on the answers must match that of the question that you've asked. The player that you ask the question of makes their choice of answer by playing either their A or B tile face down on the table in front of them. Players must answer honestly because, as we all know, squirrels are very honest creatures. And if you're asked a question, you must be careful not to give any verbal or visual clues about what your answer might be. You simply place your answer tile face down on the table and try to keep a straight face. Every player except the one who asked the question and the one who answered the question now becomes a guesser. And they must place one of their A or B tiles face down on the table. They are trying to guess what the player who was asked the question has answered. The player who answered the question then reveals their answer. They are always correct, so they score 1 point and they move their squirrel 1 space up the mountain. That player may choose to explain briefly why it is that they've answered in that way, and this could lead to some interesting table discussion. The guessers then reveal their guesses. If they guessed correctly, they will also move their squirrel 1 space forward. So in this case, orange is correct and advances 1 space. Well, where does that leave the player who asked the question? Well, they move their squirrel 1 space up the mountain for every incorrect guess. So in this example, there were 2 incorrect guesses, so the blue player who asked the question would score 2 points. So when you're asking a question, you want to try to make it as tricky as possible, because if everybody guesses it correctly, then you're not going to score any points. After the points have been scored, you take the 2 answer cards that were used and discard them. Then you take 2 new cards from the top of the deck and add them to your hand so that you've got 5 answer cards in hand again. And finally, you take the question board, give it to the player to your left, they take the next turn and the game continues. I mentioned earlier on that when you ask somebody a question, you take one of their acorns, and if they don't have any acorns, you cannot ask them a question. This rule is in there to stop the same player from being repeatedly asked questions by everybody else. It can happen that you end up with more than one acorn. That's okay, although the other players might call you greedy. When someone asks you a question, they only take one of your acorns. Remember, players take turns asking questions clockwise around the table, regardless of how many acorns everybody has, and regardless of who was just asked a question. When you are a guesser, you have the option of playing one of your kicker tiles along with your A or B tile. To do this, you place it face down on top of your guess. Secretive squirrels can put their paw on top of it, so that nobody sees whether they've played a kicker or not. When you reveal your guess, you also reveal your kicker. If you play the ×3 kicker and you're correct, your squirrel will advance 3 spaces up the mountain instead of 1. You will use this tile if you're really sure that you've guessed correctly. You will use the tough question kicker if you think the question was a really tricky one and the other players are likely to have guessed wrong. And in this case, you will score 1 point for every incorrect guess other than your own. After scoring, discard any kickers played to the board. Squirrels enjoy going for swims in lakes and for nice walks around the meadows. Which is why in this game, when your squirrel reaches the lake or the meadow, you can take back one of the kicker tiles on the board, allowing you to play it again later in the game. When the stack of answer cards on the board is empty, the game enters the final round. At the beginning of this round, this icon means that all players can take back one of their kickers from the board. The final round is played as normal, except after you have asked your last question, you don't draw any more cards from the board, because you're not going to be asking any more questions, so you don't need any more cards. At this point, you might as well just discard the ones that you've got left. The winner of the game is the player whose squirrel has climbed the farthest up the mountain. But note, if you reach the top of the mountain, you can continue walking onto the clouds. Don't ask me how squirrels do this, it's their little secret. However, no matter where you end up on the mountain, you may consider yourself a winner if you've spent some good quality time with your squirrel friends and learnt some interesting things about them. I hope you found this video useful in learning how to play That's a Question. For more of my videos, please consider subscribing to my channel. And for more great games from CGE, please visit checkgames.com. Until next time, take care and thanks for watching.